All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a special guest. We got a special couple guests, coming on the show today. We're going to be talking the grind, the Peach State Gridiron Classic, PSGC, man. We got a couple coaches on. We got Coach Deion Evans from the West Coast now, you know what I mean? Coach Jordan Jackson from Windoboro, Georgia. Man, that you probably all know very well, especially in Georgia. Coach Jordan Harris, a.k.a. Big Skip. So without that being said, further ado, we're gonna bring on the guys, man, and let y'all hear their wisdom. What's going on, Coach?
How you
Jack?
doing, brother? Good to be on with you.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all coming on, man. I don't know what happened. Get on here in a second.
What's going on?
Good, man. I'm blessed to be on here with y'all, man, to let y'all highlight the Peach Gridiron Classic, man. So, how did y'all, before we get into everything, man, how was y'all Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving, Christmas and New Year?
It was
I'll go
blessed, man.
first. My Christmas was dope. I was spending a lot of time with family. The morning time was with family. The evening time was finalizing the offensive wristbands because I knew the following day I was getting on that flight coming to Georgia. I would have loved to bring the whole family, but them Christmas prices is different from the west to the east, and so just me and the boy was going, and but we had a ball. We came back, and because we were so elated at what happened at the Peach State Gridiron Classic, I didn't even know it was New Year's. It just kind of I like it. Oh, tomorrow's New Year's. Oh, okay.
Nah, 100%.
We were still excited about the time we had in Georgia.
Nah, I'm saying, I know, Coach, you fresh off a state championship as well. So you just keeping the ball
Yeah,
rolling.
yeah. 2 weeks prior to heading to Georgia, we won the first football CIF state champion in school history, and we're the first school in our city to represent in the state championship in football for CIF. So we have, it was a lot of history around what we just accomplished, and then 2 weeks later, we're in Georgia to coach the Peach State Gridiron Classic, and so I would say I've had a pretty good month. Pretty good month.
Most definitely, a lot of momentum coming into the new year. But Coach Jackson down in my bottom right, man, outside linebacker coach, from Windoboro, Army vet. So we appreciate your service, sir. And just kind of, let the people know. Also, outside linebacker coach, I think I already said that, but just let the people know a little bit about yourself, and what you're kind of about.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I was the DC and the outside linebackers coach for Team Dream. A little bit about me. I I'm originally from Jefferson, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I went to school at, played at. So if you know anything about Jefferson, they produce some pretty good football players. A lot of legendary coaches out there. Um, During that, like just me alone, I was a pretty decent football player. Had some opportunities to possibly, do some things in college, but I was one of those guys, man. I kind of what we call now. I was a little hard headed. I thought I was a little too cool for school, man. And
Yeah.
as it's a lot of people like that. So to make a long story short, and I'm saying this for a lot of the young viewers, I had to take the long route just to get back the ball. You know, like I literally had to take the long route just to get back the ball. There was a time after I graduated, I wasn't doing nothing positive, and I had, kind of had what they call it. I had that meeting between myself and the big man. He was just like, look, if you stay doing what you're doing, you know, it's one or two places that's gonna end you up. So I ended up from there. I left and I went to the military. A lot of people were like, "Well, why go to the army?" Well, kind of like my home life, it wasn't really a lot going on. My grandmother raised me and she did the best she could.
Mm-hmm.
But when Granny started getting sick, things started to change, and so I couldn't just go and be like, well, Georgia Southern or and Ball State and all this. Like the rest of my friends was going, man, we ain't had no money. So the best way for me to earn some college money, and to change my surroundings for me was to go to the army. Um, and from there, I gave the service 11 years, best 11 years of my life, best decision I made in my life, and just to kind of speed things along. Because I know we got other people Things happen, man. Things change. It's kind of like in a football game where you face some adversity, and once again, faced some adversity, and I had some injuries, and it was like, hey, it's time for you to get out of the army. Your time has passed. Thank you for what you did. Because I finally found
Right.
something else that I was pretty good at. And I was gonna be a career soldier. But once again, man, the big man, he gonna knock on that door a couple times, and if you don't listen, he gonna kick it, and he gonna knock you over in the process. So
Good time.
he knocked it over in the process, and boom, I'm out of the army now. I'm positive. I got a lot of certs under there, but I didn't know really what my why was, and so the first thing people do when they do something, they want to get out and make money. So that's what I wanted to do. And I went and I got a job where I made a decent amount of money, and absolutely hated it. I hated every bit of it. But I knew it was necessary that what I was doing at that time, take care of my children, and speed things along a little bit. I ended up linking up with Coach Daniels. We was talking at a kickball game. We are in our area. They host like kickball games in different cities. This city versus that city. Me and Coach Daniels started talking, and I was like, "Yeah, man, I want to get into coaching." And he was like, "All right, well, if that's what you want to do, I got you." And a lot of people, a lot of times you talk to folks, you don't think it's gonna lead to nothing. It's just like, hey, we out here, nice day, we just talking. But man, he wasn't playing, and neither was I. And his one of his camps, he sent me a text like, hey man, I need a coach. I was like, all right. I had always stayed around ball, and I was one of those guys that like get on YouTube and see how they break stuff down. But as far as really coaching ball, man, outside of helping rec kids, man, I ain't had no experience. But this guy gave me a shot, and that led to me and be like, oh wow, I could really do this. And I was and this is another connection through Coach Daniels. I was on there, and Coach Tinker was on there, and he posted on his page was like guys who would like to coach and who is coaching or something along the lines of that. What is your plan to get yourself there? And man, I had a laid out plan. I laid it out how I wanted to do it, and from there, a guy named Hunter Chipoletti found me. Hunter Chipoletti at the time is down at Warner Robins. Everybody knows about Warner Robins football in Georgia. Well, I didn't know this, but he had just got hired to be the offensive coordinator at Winder. So he seen what I said. He reached out to me, and from there, conversation started. And things were looking well. And then I got introduced to Coach Robert Paxi, the head coach at Rock Barrow. That he did crazy work down in Florida. Taking late gifts in the Final Fours. I mean, he coached guys like Cormani. So it's just and it all started just from a camp combine. And from there, they hired me as a volunteer coach, and gave me that opportunity. And I was one of them people. All I needed was a matchstick worth of fire. And from there, I came with the gas, and and it exploded. And,
That's
and I
all it
kid
takes. That's all it
and I
takes.
kid y'all not, it exploded faster than what I mean, faster than I could even expect. And from there, we had a pretty good season year at Wanda this year. Made it playoff first time about 7 years. Got a lot of kids that are going to college, and then we got a junior group that's coming up. They're phenomenal. So from there, it's like wow, it's still sometimes in awe to see that we're where I'm been placed in, and then to get the
100%, coach.
call to
Not,
work with coach.
not, not to cut your wisdom, coach. So we're gonna get into your story a little later, but I got to introduce Coach Gibbon. We're gonna get into your story as we progress, and
Perfect.
I appreciate that, brother. I also want to introduce Coach Skip, man. I'm saying introduce yourself to the people, man, real briefly.
No, 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 no. Coach Jackson. Coach Jackson. You finish. I can wait. You finish. Finish your story. I want to hear that.
My bad, man. I wasn't trying to get long winded, but I didn't
Yeah,
know
you
No,
what
no,
good.
you
no. Coach
wanted.
Jackson. Coach Jackson. Coach Jackson. Let me tell you something. Brother to brother, when you're telling a story, brothers want to hear it. You
Right.
got you got a story to tell. And everybody that's on this channel that's gonna watch this is gonna learn from your story. Don't bump me for a second. Coach Jackson, tell your story.
Floor
Well,
is yours, brother.
yes, sir. So, I once again, like I said, I got connected with the people over here at Wander, and they treated me well, and like I said, we had a really good season. And then season ends. We went down and played TCC, who's a monster of a team. Ended our season. And I get a text from Coach Daniels. You know, me and him talk pretty often, and I get a text from him saying like, "Hey, you trying to be the defensive coordinator at, for Team Dream?" And I'm like, it's one of them things where it's like, wow, I feel honored that somebody's, considering me in that eyes. Being wild, just really 2 years ago, man, I was, I was welding. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but then you're like, okay, sure. And then, cause once all the adrenaline goes down, it's like, bro, I gotta call the whole defense by myself. And then once that set in, it was like, wow, like it's amazing on what you do. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, what you can do, and from there I was, once again I was the defense coordinator of Team Dream. And we played well, but that success, and I'm gonna turn it over after this. That success wasn't Kalen Jackson. That success was a combination of people that gave opportunities and believed in somebody to give them a chance. A lot of that stuff I did, I was taught by somebody else. So that's why I'm gonna end, and we can keep it rolling.
I'm saying, I didn't mean to disrespect you, cutting you off, coach. You know what I'm saying? I just, what I'm saying, trying to keep everything safe with him. But
Oh no, you good, brother. You good, bro.
for sure. Go ahead, coach.
Nah, man, what's going on, everybody? My name is Coach Jordan. People call me Big Skipping. I actually got that nickname in college. We'll talk about that another day. My story's pretty simple. My story's pretty basketball player turned football player. I've been playing basketball since I was 8. Loved it, loved every bit, loved every minute of it. When I got to high school, I played it, was, you know, lead scorer my freshman year, but that's a different conversation. My football journey started with my brother. My brother was actually an All-American in high school. He was the first person out of Latonia High School to be an All-American, be a 4-star, 5-star product. And I looked up after him, but I didn't want to play football. I didn't want to touch it because I loved basketball that much. And anyone that's played basketball know it's different to move from basketball to football. So my mom, who might be watching this, came out, told me straight up, like, I don't care if you play basketball, but you're going to do something in the fall. You either do some military or you play football. And I think I made the right decision playing football. So we left Stevenson. We left Latonia, I'm sorry. We transferred to Stevenson under Ron Gartrell, who in my opinion is one of the greatest coaches in Georgia history. Brought me in. Quick little story to how everything got started. We played North Gwinnett in a scrimmage. 39 seconds in the third quarter. Coach Evans, Coach Jackson, I hope you hear me. 39 seconds in the third quarter. I didn't play a full 2 quarters because Stevenson was just that good. And they put me in there with 39 seconds. I played 3 plays. 3 plays.
Mm-hmm.
The next Monday, Reggie Ball, who played at Georgia Tech, was my offensive coordinator. He comes in. He looks at me and Tyler Jones, who was an assistant coach at North Carolina State, and he said, both of y'all starting. And I was like, oh, say no more. And it went from there. And, played my junior year, broke my ankle my junior year, but then God found another way for me to get right, and he gave me 30 offers. He gave me a 3-star recruit. He gave me everything that I never thought I could get in high school. Signed with Mississippi State, went on, did a summer at Mississippi State, took the JUCO route because of grades. So every kid that's watching this, I hope you can learn from a former recruit to get your grades up, or something will happen. So keep those grades up for sure. I took the JUCO route, did a year of prep ball. That's where I met Nathan Dorton, Phenom Elite. Then went back to JUCO, which was probably my best decision I ever made personally. Went to Kahoma Community in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Went to Valdosta State on football scholarship, won a championship in 2018. And then I left there and started my coaching career by the name of I forget his name, but he's Marcus Brown. Marcus Brown, who was down at Newton High School, gives me a call. He wanted my brother, actually, if we being honest. Coach Evans, no, I give love where it's created. Marcus Brown called my brother, said, hey, both of y'all, I need y'all here at Eagles Landing. He had just got the job and he wanted to make it work and everything of that nature. So I went down there, didn't know what I was doing. I was supposed to be quality control, and third week of the season, I'm the offensive line coach. So, and then after that, finished the season, I moved over to Latonia, which is my alma mater, became an O-line coach. Sat out for a couple years, started training, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Met a guy named Julius Williams, who is the O-line D-line coach of the Trench Mob, which is National 5-on-5 powerhouse. Blessed to be a part of that. He brought me in, said, we need some help for the O-line, need your expertise, all that good stuff. So I took it, ran with it, and I met, similar to Coach Jackson, I met Coach Lamar at a shorter camp, if we're being honest. I met Coach Lamar. He was, when he first started out, he was one of those guys that gave away camps. Like, hey, go to this camp, go to this Pembroke camp, go to this shorter camp, and all this other stuff. So I had a kid with me. I took this kid down to West Hall, where I met Coach Morrison down at Shorter, and I met Coach Daniels right there. And then I told him, like, look, whatever you need, whatever help you need, man, just let me know, man. I ain't going nowhere. I'm not going anywhere, bro. Whatever you need. And he had an 8th grade camp. It's funny because he had an 8th grade camp that I didn't even know about. I thought we was good. Like, he didn't call me, text me, or nothing. I'm like, damn, Coach Lamar, I thought we was good. And then he called me like 2 weeks after that. He said, Coach Jordan, man, that's my bad, man. I forgot your number. I needed an O-line coach. I didn't have one. And I said, Coach, we all good. I ain't even mad. And then he had his first camp at Banks County, and the rest is history. He anointed me second in command, which I take very seriously. You know, he made me a national O-line, D-line scout for Peach State Gridiron. He did everything for me, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't do this interview without Lamar. I don't do this interview without Lamar Daniels, man. To me, guys like Coach Jackson, Coach Evans, to see those kids that we had at Peach State, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, Coach Evans, Coach Jackson, and the Jake, and since the game ended, I have not stopped talking about it. I talk about it almost every day. Like that has to be one of the biggest accomplishments ever. To be a part of that, to be in that situation, it's mind blowing, man. Like Coach Jackson, man, stuff like that doesn't happen all the time, man. And to be around that, to be around those kids, I wouldn't say a bunch of no names, just a bunch of underrated guys, you know, to get a shot, to get a chance, man. I'm telling you, it's a blessing, man. But that's my story. Glad I told it. Glad to be here. Glad to see Coach Evans again. Glad to see Coach Jackson again. Bacon, you already know how we get down, and that's my story.
100%. We had a comment by Brandsburg. Y'all may know him. Said all great coaches, man. So definitely shout out to brother for tapping in, tuning in with us, man. But I think the way you ended that, just a perfect way to segue into one of my questions is, you know, how does players like that, you said they're not no names, but they're definitely underrated. How do players like that go underrated, you know what I'm saying, overlooked? Whoever wants to answer first.
I can jump in there first.
Go ahead,
a lot of reasons why these high profile athletes are underrated is because the schools that they attend do not see them in the quality of light they ought for the sport that they play. So if you're at a school that doesn't really care about football, but your football program is good, you're in a terrible situation. You're at a good school academically, but that school doesn't really care as much about sports. They believe in student athletes, but they're very heavy on the student, not realizing that athlete is doing more day in and day out than just a regular student. And so some schools do not see their athletes as ambassadors to the community and to the nation at large. So they don't put as much time, they don't invest as much time in making sure that their athletes that are very high profile in their leagues are high profile in the recruiting stream. And then you have some head coaches who they do not believe it is their job to participate in the recruiting process of an athlete. I actually kind of like Coach Lamar Daniels' approach. As parents, that's you do it. Don't wait on the coach to do it. I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of value in that. However, I believe parents then need to be educated on how to do that. Uh, but a lot of kids, it's that their parents don't know how to do it, and their institution isn't doing it, and their head coach doesn't find it their responsibility to do it. When you have a kid in that trifecta, that is a high profile kid who should probably be playing D1 somewhere that not even junior colleges know about. And that gets sad and frustrating.
100%. So why do you feel like? I mean, I get it. Some coaches had the perception of my job is to win these games, but obviously, coaches are former players. Why do you feel like they don't? I'm saying, I guess, get back in that instance.
I think some coaches, I mean, there's a lot of football coaches just doing it for the check. They're not really doing it for the kid beyond the institution. Football recruiting is the toughest sport for recruiting, period. It's the toughest sport. And you're putting your body on the line so much that for me, as a former player and as a current coach, you got to bring everything to the table for an athlete that's playing it. You got to put as much energy in a kid who has D1 talent in recruiting. You got to put as much energy in that as a kid who's NAIA. Kids who play football deserve a lot of recruiting attention because they are playing the toughest sport on the planet. And I would gather that any school with a decent football program, that football program is bringing in more money than any other sport on the campus. I'm talking about ticket sales for games, snack bar sales, paraphernalia sales. Your football team, even at the high school level, is bringing into the institution more money than any other sport.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why homecoming is during football, not during basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do homecoming during baseball games. Homecoming happens during football. That's where you're trying to get all the alumni to come back to campus so they can see the advancing of the institution since they last graduated, and then to hit them up later for funds to help expand other projects on the campus. Football does all of that.
I definitely agree. It's definitely the cash cow, not just in high school, college, and abroad. But Coach Kelly, I'm gonna go to you with the same question. Why do you feel like coaches? I mean, some certain players like who at the Gridiron Peach Classic are overlooked. Even though they can play, obviously.
Well, I personally think, and after working on the staff this year, my head coach is different. He picks that phone up. He'll make those calls like that. And I can honestly say that, and that's why what I'm saying he's that's why I enjoy working with him. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as the masses, there's so much more that goes on being a head coach than X's and O's, than helping getting guys recruited, and helping getting guys recruited that you as a head coach in Georgia, and obviously I'm sure Cali's probably similar, but definitely Coach Jordan can relate to this. You're pretty much a CEO, you know, and due to it being such a cash cow down here, it's so much that they're doing. I mean, it's almost like, not saying because uh, it's not saying that they can't, but they're raising money, dealing with parents, you know, working with admin. And I think in those cases where those kids do play for those head coaches that don't necessarily seem like they're churning out talent, before you look at that coach, I think you got to start looking at the admin too.
Mm.
Because, I've learned in my little bit of time in coaching and talking to other coaches and getting mentored, you obviously chase talent, but you chase admin. And it's a direct correlation at some of these schools where if they're some of these guys being underlooked, there usually an instability in the admin and the touchdown club or booster club. So when those things lapse, that head coach has to go do more. So that's just kind of my piece on that.
I touch on that a little more. The value of the admin. You know, so most people they ain't even thinking about the admin. They think about the coach-player relationship dynamics. So go into that a little more in
Oh,
detail.
yes, sir. So it's look it's basically I'm gonna do it like building a house where everybody understand. Principal, AD, that's your foundation. Superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
and then the stuff everybody sees. Oh, that's a nice roof. Those are nice windows. Those are, oh, I like those panels. That's your head coach. So, your head coach is the person that, when they say football, your name is directly tied and, to that football program, but you're only as good as what you're given and what's willing to work with you. And, nothing against nobody's admin, those people are that way and those ways for a reason. But I've seen situations to where, kind of like what Coach Evans was talking about, ADs and certain people, they want to be so fair that they don't understand, like, hey, there wouldn't be a co-ed swim team without the football team making money at the gate. And when you go to these predominantly, like, man, like I said, we went down to TCC, and that's a class act. You look at places like, in our area, Northeast Georgia, your Jeffersons, your Bufords, your Gainesville, places like that. They make sure, hey, we have a standard for excellence, but we also understand what brings it in by looking at, the facilities and those things. So, a head coach, man, don't get me wrong, they have a lot on them and they do, with great responsibility. But you also got, man, some guys they're coaching with their hands tied, man.
Let me also share this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, High school football recruiting is radically changing, and I would suggest in the next year or two, all high schools that are going to be viable for student athletes to want to attend for an education and play sports, they're going to have some type of recruiting coordinator job where there is somebody on that campus whose only job is the recruiting of athletes, assisting in the recruiting, in the promotion of student athletes. And I would say the more sports you have, the more of those recruiters you may need. Football may demand one by themselves, and then everybody else can share one. But I believe that the recruiting landscape is changing, and high schools are going to have to adjust in some ways that right now we don't know how we're going to have to adjust, but the handwriting is on the wall. High school students playing football in particular are going to have a hard time getting out of high school to a Division I program.
Right.
It's age issue. It's a maturity issue. It's coaches are not being given 5 years to turn a program around. So you can't bring in a 17-year-old kid who has no college experience. He may be a baller where he's from, but can he help your program win as immediately? And if the answer is no, then chances are that kid is going to get tucked away at a JUCO, or that kid's going to be tucked away at NAIA Division III school, and they're going to have to go with older athletes. With the paying, the NIL money, a lot of high school students who are the MVP of their league, the offensive MVP, the defensive MVP of the league, typically those are the type of kids you knew were going to get D1 offers. But those kids are now going to have to go to JUCO for at least a year because they're not going to invest thousands of dollars in a 17, 18-year-old kid with no college experience when you got a kid leaving JUCO or leaving NAIA who was an honorable mention linebacker, but he's at a 4-year institution. He knows what college football is already about. So there's all these dynamics. So at the high school level for recruiting, you're going to have somebody who is in the know of all of this stuff and also has a good eye for where athletes in their school should begin their recruiting journey. I would suggest that some kids are beginning their recruiting journey too high. I've already told my son, who I believe can play D1, you don't want to think of recruiting at D1. You got to think of recruiting at D3, D2, and then go up. You might have to spend a year in a D3 or a D2 school, not because that's your sport talent. You a D1 kid, but nobody's going to take nobody. You're going to have to be a supernatural talent to be a kid that they're going to pay NIL money. Because remember, football programs, I think now at the college level, they've been cut. You can only have 95, and you pay them all. The NLI, National Letter of Intent, abolished. Right. Now it's all contract for academics and sports. That money's going to be thin, and because everybody's getting paid, then coaches are going to be on shorter leashes.
Well, then how do you players are already getting paid some on the high school level? How do you keep control of the locker room? How do you just keep players hungry? Like next month, coach, I might be getting 50,000, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? I might not be coming, like if you're basketball, I might not be coming to the late night shooting sessions. I might not be hitting the gym as hard as a guy who's who's a walk-on or whatever. So how do you keep control and make sure everybody's giving 120%? Because that's what it takes.
Oh, you do the contracts year to year and performance-based. Year to year. I would not sign a kid into my football program for 4 years. No, you this semester. Matter of fact, we giving you this amount of money for the semester. If at the end of the football season semester you're not performing, we're letting you go before spring. We're already bringing in your replacement. Matter of fact, here's your name on the leaderboard. You right here. Here's who's behind you. I want you to know who's this kid in Pennsylvania, this kid in Georgia, this kid in Cali, this kid in North Carolina. All of these kids right now are hungry for the money we've dedicated to you. So if you don't perform here, means you must, if it says a receiver, you're going to have to catch 75% of all targets to you. You're going to have to block at a 70% clip. You're going to have to score X amount of points. And if you can't do that within the scheme of this offense, right, then we're going to the next guy that we believe who can. So I'm not even doing a year. I'm doing July to January. That'll get all of football preseason and postseason. Mm-hmm. And if in that span you've not met these measurables, and I'm putting practice time, I'm putting GPA, you got to establish if your GPA ever goes under 3.0, we have the right to rescind this whole contract. We're not playing with it. That's what I would do.
I agree.
No, Coach Evans, man, you just hit the nail on the coffin, man. You hit it. But now I think, in my personal opinion, this is just me, we need to start treating college like it's a pro league. That's basically what it is. Think about it. In the NFL or in the CFL or arena, an arena is 22 players. In the CFL, I think it's like 60 or 70. In the NFL, it's only 53. And half of those guys are only like maybe I could be wrong, maybe 5 or 6 guys are on max contracts. So if I'm a college like a Georgia or an Ohio State or Georgia Tech, I'm looking at my guys and I'm saying, hey, man, you want this amount of money, you got to give me this amount of work. If you want, I'll give you a prime example. People don't talk about this a lot. There's a kid out in Florida. He went up to Billy Napier. I think, Bacon, I know you know about it. There's a kid out in Florida. He goes up to Billy Napier. He says, I want 3 things, coach, for me to come back. I want $45,000 a month, which is $450 a year. Which a lot of people ain't making that. I don't know how the hell he got $45,000, but that's a different conversation. I want to play on 3rd downs, and I want a guaranteed starting spot. Okay, let's look at the numbers. You've been with us for 2 years. You've had 60 tackles. You've got 1 sack and 2 tackles for losses. Every coach in this room knows you ain't getting $45,000 a month with those numbers.
Yeah.
Everyone knows you're not going to get a guaranteed spot with those numbers when there's a kid out in high school that just doubled that in a year. Why would I give you 45,000 and you can't even and you want to start and you're not even competing? You're not saying, "Hey, coach, I want to come in and I'll compete for the spot." He basically said, "Yo, I'm like the next Dante Fowler. I want that spot." Last time I checked, Dante Fowler, when he was there for 4 years, broke a couple records and won a bowl game. And he played on third down. He made 5,000. So to keep the locker room afloat, you gotta tell these kids the truth.
Yep.
You got to be honest with these kids, and that starts in recruiting. Hey, listen, I got this prime example. If we use quarterback, hey, we look at Georgia. I got Gunnar Stockton. If Gunnar didn't play bad, by the way, in the bowl game, but we'll talk about that later. Hey, I got Gunnar Stockton. You want his job, you got to give me Gunnar Stockton type of play. Or you want 20,000, you want 200,000 a year, you got to show me whether you a 5-star or a 4-star. We got to be honest with these kids about who they are and what they do. Because a lot of kids, they're going to come in and say, "Oh, I didn't get what I was justified, or I didn't get what I was owed." And it's like, well, what did you do this year to get what you need?
Right.
And then you hit the portal, and it's like, and then the coach, and then players forget coaches talk. Why is Jamal in the portal? Oh, because he said he wanted to be a starter, but he only had, if he's a quarterback, he only threw for 300 the whole season. Out of 12 games, you only throw for 300? Nah, that ain't good enough. That's not good enough. So the biggest thing right now with coaches, and I think hiring Belichick in North Carolina set the tone, is that Belichick going to be honest. Belichick going to tell everybody the truth. Belichick going to take you to the side. Hey, this is why you're not playing. This is why you're not getting paid. This is why you're not getting this. And that sets the tone for a lot of these coaches to say, hey, if North Carolina can get the greatest coach of all time out of retirement to coach our kids, then we got to set the tone and follow his way. So I agree with everything Coach Evans said. I just think more and more, especially with these new rules, just be honest with the players. And I promise you, it'll take you all the way.
Yep.
I agree. So, fellas, we might as well get back to Peach Bowl Classic. So, how important is a game like the Peach State Grind Classic, to give these players a platform, to showcase them? What was our first? Yeah, go ahead. What was our first impression when you first heard the idea? To get to that.
Well, like I said, I work with Lamar, and the conversation was really supposed to be an all-state. It was supposed to be all-state. It really just supposed to be the best in Georgia. Maybe we invite some people out in California and we make it work. And then as the season went by, more kids started sending film. More kids started doing this. Accolades came out. All these accolades came out. And then we met this guy named Deion Evans, who's on the top. Let's make it nationwide. Let's make it nationwide. The coach thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a great idea, and it all came together. But for a game like this to be special, you have 95 kids. Half of them coaches don't even know about.
Right.
Then they look at the game and they're like, "Who is this Delonte Overstreet? Who is Jalen Ray? Who is this Nate Stevens? Who is this Seth Evans? Like, who are these kids making plays?" And they actually doing it. Now, no disrespect to no other All-Star game, but you go to that All-Star game, like out of 90 roster, about 40 of those kids. 100%. Come to Peach State, you may know 3 kids, and then the rest of them are just trying to build it up. So for me, it's pretty much just giving other kids that's literally overlooked a platform. Because I can tell you right now, half of those kids that's getting offers now after this should have got offered way before this. 100%.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, Coach Jackson.
I agree, man. Like, I think it gave them just a different platform. And it also showed, it did a couple things too. It also showed the elevation of talent, and just, we had obviously, nationwide talent, but just the talent in the state of Georgia, that, you got to think there was other All-Star games that were what they considered, what did they say, Coach Jordan, more prestige? Is that what they said, right?
More prestige.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I said, it's no shade because there were some great coaches and some ballers in those All-Star games. But
Right.
that shows that you could go get a fourth All-Star game and still really don't have a fall off in talent. There was really no drop off. So I think that was big for just really not just those kids, but really the whole state in itself.
Has this been the first time I've ever heard it? It is to me. I never heard, well, outside of maybe nationally, but like this is the first time I've ever heard about, I'm saying, camp like this that touches national and brings everybody together. And it was so during the process, you know what I'm saying, how was it all, I'm saying, correlate, so you got kids who see the shiny see, everybody's getting one accord, you know what I'm saying? So how did it all pan out?
Let me speak to that.
Yeah.
So Coach Daniels is deserving of every accolade, every favorable comment you can make about him
100,000%.
as it relates to he personally picked every single athlete that played in that game. But here's a level of appreciation that must be hitched onto that wagon. How he selected the coaches. You can say a lot about how he selected the players, and he is worthy of every wonderful comment you can come up with. But when you dig into how he selected each coach and then paired the coaches in groups, that needs to be studied. Because that was one of the most phenomenal jobs of any all-star game that can take place. Because you're taking coaches also from different states.
Right.
All coming into Georgia. Now, why were there so many kids? Georgia is known for its quality of football. Ain't nobody gonna take that from Georgia. Georgia is so known for its quality of football. The kids in Cali, we want to go show our talents in Georgia and let's see how well we stack up. And they showed out. But guess what? Well, when Florida heard about Cali, they was like, oh, hold on. We know about Georgia football too. North Carolina heard that Florida, Mississippi, and California, hold on. I want to come to Georgia and I want to showcase my talents too. So now you went from one state, Coach Jordan was right. It was only supposed to be Georgia. But then my relationship with Coach Daniels, I said, hold on, bro, why Georgia alone? Why can't we bring some California kids out there? I got 10 kids that I'll send you. You look at their film and you determine who should come. And he did that. And all of those kids who came did their job. They balled out. But they didn't ball out to disrespect Georgia. They balled out and made friends in Georgia, North Carolina, Mississippi, Nevada, Florida, Alabama. They made Kentucky. They made friends from them kids. I wasn't in Georgia 1 hour at Banks Community High School before I realized that kids, no matter what state they from, they the same. The kids all showed up from 15 states. We're gonna keep harping on that. They was all wearing the same kind of shoes. They all had the same kind of hairstyles. It was crazy.
Yeah.
They was all doing the same type of dancing. They was talking about the same. Those kids weren't together 2 hours and they were already acting like they were together forever. One kid commented, I was there 3 days. I think it was Jeremiah Charles, quarterback out of California. In the post wrap up, he said, I was there 3 days and it felt like I was with those teammates an entire season. That's not just, that's what the Peach State Gridiron Classic did. And I'm like Coach Jordan, I can't I can't stop thinking about it. And I won state. I think more of the people. I ain't trying to cast a state. When we won state, we knew all the history that we were about to break. But we knew we was going to win. We knew we had prepared these kids. We knew we were going. There was no question for me that we was going to win state. When I came to Georgia, I didn't know if we could win. I wanted to win. But winning was personal. The event was a win. Meeting guys like Coach Jordan, Coach Whitehead, we was doing our thing, talking back and forth like coaches are supposed to do, because we're supposed to create an environment for our kids to compete, right? Coach Jackson was on my side. He was my DC. I'm pretty sure I scared him to death 2 weeks before we went in. I said, hey, look, bro, this is an all-star game. If I'm going to be the OC and the head coach, I can't spend time down there telling the DC what to do. Those kids deserve a coach in an all-star game that is totally going to concentrate on them. So I need you to come in here as a DC, but you got to think like and operate like a head coach. And you couldn't have told me he didn't have that experience. Remember, this man, Coach Jackson, was my DC on Team Dream, and he shut teamwork. He shut an all-star team down in the second half. And the all-star team he shut down, team work, could play any of these other winners in Georgia or beyond and beat them in an all-star game. Because I would love to see who's going to stop Joshua True. I would love to see it. That dude is just different. And we had to game plan around him differently on the fly. And Jackson did that. Coach Jordan, he is just a force. He is just an amazing force. And though he was on teamwork, he was still on Team Dream. So in the end, these kids, they won because of how they were able to relate to one another. And they won because Coach Lamar Daniels put together a coaching staff that made coaches look at themselves like, man, this is a special group right here. Nothing but respect, you know. And then we, you know, as far as Team Dream, I want to shout out Coach Brandon Ransburg, who came to handle our O-line. Coach Jeff Miller, who was a last minute coach replacement that was phenomenal. He handled our tight ends and linemen to make sure, because the linemen and the tight ends didn't practice together. They couldn't. And he was the bridge to make sure that the tight ends knew the O-line stuff and that the tight ends knew the route running stuff. He was a bridge. And then we had Coach Michael Moraes. That's your coach who will put on pads. That's your coach who I think Coach Jordan will put on pads too for teamwork. Put on pads and get out there and mix it up with the kids, and the kids would love it. They would love it. Now, I mean, after about 4 or 5, possessions, he might have to come up out of there because he's an older man, but he gonna give you a good 4 reps.
Yeah.
and Moraes' shoulders is cock strong. He might give you 10 reps, but when you start getting to 15 to 20, he gonna have to tap out. He got to come up out of there. And then
he won't even make it. He won't even.
And then coach Tony Dennis, DBs. The DBs that were on the team, they raved about this guy. And I was watching him. I watch how coaches can handle being coached.
Talk about it.
I wanted to see how Moraes could handle being led by Jackson. I wanted to see how Dennis could be led by Jackson, because I was very clear. Coach Jackson, you developed the defensive plan and give it to the other ones to execute. Man, you got to get up off. People got to get off their ego to pull that off. It says a lot about your manhood when you can probably be the DC too, but you've not been tasked to be the DC. And those gentlemen, from my view, They got with Coach Jackson, understood the assignment, and as I'm watching him call the defense, and all three of them giving different signals based upon what needs to happen. And then the second half, we shut out teamwork. It was a phenomenal sight. And understand, teamwork could play any other all-star team in Georgia, and I believe they win.
100%.
It won't even be close.
Before I want to get your perspective, Coach Jackson, on how saying that all that went together, but putting together defense. Before I do that, Coach Evans, I want you just to talk about saying it's been on my mind since you said it, Coach. I don't want to say his first name, but I can't remember his last name right now. For whatever, Coach Daniels, bringing in a coaching staff. Saying they all got the mixes, all got to correlate. He handpicked them. Being a leader of men yourself, what do you think goes into that process? Just getting the right guys together to gel. If that makes sense.
Well, what you gotta know is it doesn't matter how good a coach you are, you ain't the only good coach.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much football you know, there's other people who know football too.
Mm-hmm.
And so my position is I have big respect for football coaches. I'm not the kind of person, you got to prove to me you can coach. No, if Lamar Daniels picked you, then I'm under the belief I got a guy. And I'm going to roll with you until I realize, nah, he ain't the one. And I never had that. All the coaches we had, they were on point. You got to give, in all-star coaching is not the same as coaching a regular day-to-day program.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot come into an all-star coaching staff with day-to-day high school program mentality. It's not the same. There are certain things that the kids from Cali were doing in the game that if they'd have done that at home, it would have been curtains. They'd have been running till they was peeing on themselves for doing some of the things that they was doing. But in an all-star game where everybody's an all-star, there's a lot more flexibility. Right. It's a lot more entertaining. It's a lot more fun that needs to be had. Now, that's for the athlete. So much so for the coach. Like I said with Coach Jackson, he's the DC. But if you break it down, he was the head coach of the defense. Coach Jackson, tell the truth. Did I ever come down there and tell you what to run?
Never. Not one time. Not one time.
There was only one time in the game that I questioned something we was doing because I didn't understand something. They was in a trips and they weren't covering the middle receiver. And so I walked in like, Coach, what are we doing? How come the middle receiver? He's like, Coach, I got it. Okay, well, you got it. I turned around and walked away. And the very next play, team work came out with the same set and ran a similar play. And the ball hit our guy in his chest. He dropped the interception. I said, oh, I see what you did there. Outside of that one play, when defense was on, if you look at the film, I'm nowhere near the defensive coaches while they're coaching. I'm all the way on the other side of the sideline thinking about where we get this ball, what are we going to do next? What's the first play in the next series? Because in an all-star game, you don't have to coach the coaches. In an all-star game, every coach there is probably worthy of being a coordinator or a head coach themselves. So you got to just let them be themselves with the athletes they got. Mm-hmm. You can't be so hungry for all the athletes to like you that you marginalize the coaches that need to have an influence over those athletes. So some of the defensive players, I didn't get to have a deep, robust relationship with them. But their experiences in that Peach State Gridiron Classic was phenomenal to them simply because they had coaches who can deal with attention to details and exceed expectations. And because I was there to watch it all, I'm able to appreciate them and I'm able to give them love and I'm able to continue their recruiting processes and things like that. But Daniels put together, and I think the same thing was happening over there with teamwork, because I saw Coach Jordan do a lot of things that typically only a head coach would be doing. Some of the conversations he was having was beyond the group that he was coaching. But then Coach Jordan became such a force that Team Dream and Teamwork was looking. They know him. My son know him. He like him. So we can say a lot about the athletes, and I will never stop. The athletes, man, again, I'll put them up against any all-star team in any all-star space in the country. But what Lamar Daniels did for handpicking those coaches and then dividing those coaches, it was a win-win situation for the athletes before the athletes even arrived in Georgia.
Well, give me your top 5 athletes that stood out to you both sides right now.
Top
7.
5?
Top 7.
I'll let Coach Jordan go first. That's gonna be hard.
Top 7.
Yeah. Well, I'm biased. Gotta go to D-line. Hey, Delonte Overstreet, Jalen Ray. Easy. That's easy. 2 are the most underrated guys that gave me hell in the trenches. Coach Jackson, I don't know what y'all did over there, but we had y'all. But we ain't gonna talk about that. Okay? Those 2 right there. Easy money. I don't know who the kid was that was doing the kickoff returns. I don't know his name. He came from Morrow Catholic. He's one of those California kids. Mm-hmm. He almost took 2 to the crib. This 2B, both quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks did their thing. Josh Hopkins from Johns Creek and the kid from Monroe, man, they both did their thing, man. Man, they made some plays. They got outside the pocket. They made adjustments. They didn't try to do too much. Man, and number one, I don't know. That one's tough. I probably put the quarterbacks up at number 1 and find a number 2. But for me, and again, I'm biased. Gotta give it to both of the trenches. Both of the trenches, O-line, with my O-line, Roland Grimmett, Zayden Walters, who's a 4-star, Nate Stevens. You look at teamwork, Camden Coleman, Jalen Walks, Brandon Burton, who played at Buford. I put those guys at number 2. I'm just as biased as anybody that played that position. But for me, my 5, Delonte Overstreet, Jalen Ray, together. The O-line's number 2, both quarterbacks are number 1. I forgot who I played at 3 and 4, but man, like Coach Evans said, that was hard. That was real hard.
That's hard. Coach Jackson.
Okay. That's tough now to label it down. I'm about like he said though. When I had those guys in the trenches, I'm like, okay, we got something here. And those were the games that won and lost it. So I'll go. I guess we can do a combination: Overstreet and Ray, and I'm doing no order, but Overstreet and Ray. I'm gonna say the guy from Oconee too. Was it McDonald's his last name? Gavin.
Yeah, McDonald.
Hey, so Gavin did some stuff that a lot of his coaches and other people had told him he couldn't do. I'm gonna go one of my 2 of my linebackers. I'll say Kingston Allen from Peachtree Ridge, and Zay McCoy. Zay's just a junior, the one where he was talking about the guy dropped a pick, but he also had 2 sacks off edge pressures that, more or less, that he seen the alignment, and we built that in and went on his own. And I'd say, man, it's tough, but that Jeremiah Charles kid, dude, he might be my one, dog. Troop is 2, of course, 1 or 2 interchangeable. Troop's a dude, for sure. Troop's a dude, but Jeremiah Charles, dude, he's different, man. And to hear that he really ain't take quarterback that serious, that's scary right there.
That says a lot about an athlete.
Right.
Yeah. What about this game? I'm saying made you consider him so highly, Coach Jackson?
The poise, man. All-Star game, and you got to think, normally going to these games, defense is going to be a little ahead of offense anyway. Everybody knows that with a brain. But he's going with an offensive line he's never worked with, a center that's never snapped to him, throwing the receivers he's never thrown to. And I mean, they had some fields over there because they were running stuff out of stack, so they had somebody coming every time. And this guy didn't blink. Like I'm talking about, this Joker did not blink. And when I seen that and just the poise of like just yeah, we're good. It was like wow, he's different. You know, he built different.
Nah, that's special. That's special. Was Ray from Douglas County. So I remember seeing him against Buford. I think his brother had he might have had 4 sacks that night. I ain't gonna lie to you. Saying not really, some college guys are measurables, but just the motor to get off the relentlessness to the quarterback. That's what stood out to me about this game. So do y'all agree or do y'all feel otherwise?
100%.
What number was he?
26.
26.
On work?
Not for us.
Yeah, no, for Dream.
For us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 26 for us. All those linemen that had skill player numbers were good. All of them. When I go with my numbers, 57 on teamwork. I'm like Ransburg. Ransburg said 57 on teamwork as a dog. Every time we ran at him, we had success. Anytime we ran one way or the other, he caused us problems. So we had to change up our offense a little bit and run right at him, and that's where we got our success. Delonte Overstreet, that's just that dude, man.
Dog.
Look, he's not a dog. He a wolf. Wolves eat dogs.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wolf. Real talk. But I got to give, and Coach Jackson already brought up Jeremiah Charles, a quarterback out of California. I got to bring up his teammate, Jalen Arnold. Let me tell you why I bring up Jalen Arnold. Jalen Arnold wore number 13. Those kickoff, when every time Work scored 14 points in the first quarter. And the reason why we were able to respond to teamwork is because on the kickoff returns, Jalen Arnold gave us a short field every time. He ran that ball back to the 50 to 45 and almost broke it one time.
Mm-hmm.
And so giving us favorable field position helps us call different plays. And then there's 2 more I would like to highlight. Bo Polka, our running back. That's a Cam Scatterbro in the making. That's look, when you see him, you're like, okay, running back. You giving that ball in the in between the tackles, man, he knows how to get through there and he knows how to be gone. I don't know what he does in track and field. I'm interested in that, but he's got the speed to get it going. And a couple of times, I mean, he got MVP of offense. Because when we started running the ball, he was the bell cow for us during those times. But the unsung hero from us, the first kid in the history of the Peach State Gridiron Classic to kick a field goal, Hinkle Meha, our kicker. Now, let me tell you why I got to put him on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So he arrives on Friday just like everybody else. But there's no time for him to kick. So he's just kicking it. He comes up, he just starts playing center for the quarterbacks. Saturday, we have 2 practices. But we only have a certain amount of footballs. We don't have enough footballs or another player to go hold for him so he can kick. So he's at 2 practices on Saturday, and he's just taking reps. Sunday morning, we're on the practice field at Banks County, and that's where we decided to do an all special teams practice. And that's the first time he's been able to kick a football. And so we're watching him kick, and we're like, dude, he looks good from like 45 out. So I called all the coaches in. I said, look, this is an all-star. He's an all-star too. I said, if we get in a situation where it's 4th and whatever, and we're on, the negative side of the 45, we're going to give him a shot to kick. If we in Teamworks territory and we're within the 45 in, we're going to give him a shot to kick. And so that's why when we were doing that drive, we got a penalty, and then it was 4th and like 4 or 4th and 3. We automatically said, put him in there to kick. and he kicked the field goal, which brought us within 3 points of teamwork. That happened in like the third quarter. And then when we were kicking towards the school, teamwork could not return a kick because he was kicking it in the back of the end zone. I swear one time when he kicked the ball, it looked like he kicked a field goal on the kickoff. He looked like the ball went through the uprights. So I got to give him some love because he's one of those kids that typifies you may not be getting as much attention in practice as everybody else. Your number may not be being called in practice, but are you doing everything mentally to prepare yourself so that when your name is called in the game, you could perform? And he did that to perfection. He made all of his PATs. The only PAT he didn't make was one that he wasn't allowed to attempt because it was a bad hold. He made every PAT. He made every field goal, and he kicked off for us. And like 3 of the kickoffs that he kicked off could not be returned, which means teamwork had to start at the 20, and they had to drive the length of the field. And that's hard to do in an all-star game.
Definitely.
So those are the athletes I would throw out there.
In your opinion, what's it? Go ahead, Coach. Go ahead, Coach Skip.
Before I forget,
Yep.
Joshua Troop. I know we talked about Troop. That kid right there is something special. That kid right there is something special. I totally forgot about him. I'm glad Coach Jackson brought his name up. Him and Boo. Boo's only a junior out of Greenbrier. So, man, and think about this, Bacon, and listen. Again, there were 3 games. Half of these names you've never heard of. Dogs. So once you come out and you really see what's going on, then you know why Coach Jackson, Coach Evans, and myself are fired up that if this game can happen next week, and it would end the same way. Like I'm telling you, Bacon, man. I don't know what.
No, but I feel you know what I'm saying. I definitely when I saw you at Lakewood, you know, so I could definitely feel the energy off you. Definitely wish I could have made up there to see it because it you know what I'm saying. People just don't talk about an event that wasn't sensational, wasn't magical, it didn't affect them days, a week later if it wasn't sensational. So you know what I'm saying it's just an honor, you know what I'm saying, to hear y'all stories. You know what I'm saying. Is there like a post recorded to the game that's being posted? I know there's been little clips on Twitter on the Twitter page.
Well, you can see the
full game is.
Yeah.
Sorry, Coach Evans. The full game is on YouTube. Look up Lewis Media Sports. Shout out to Daryl Lewis who recorded the whole thing. He is the man with the camera. It's on YouTube under Lewis Media Sports. They got day 1 of the practices. They got day 2, and they got the banquet.
100%. I'm definitely gonna tap into that. Coach.
I'll share this one thing about Troop because he's worthy of being talked about. Troop forced our defense to become laser focused. Now, my son Seth Evans, 18, he is considered the top safety in Northern California. He's only a junior. He had 133 tackles this season, and he was the only defensive player that had double-digit tackles in the CIF state championship game. He had 11, and 9 of those were solo tackles. You see this picture on Twitter right now, or X, where Joshua Troop is flying in the air like Superman. Well, the backstory to that picture is Seth popped him in his legs and sent him flying.
Mm-hmm.
But when he came back, he had so much reset. He said, "Dad, I ain't never hit nobody like that and felt it at the level that I felt it." He was like, "That Troop is the truth." He's like, "That dude is he says, "I never hit a dude and felt like I was hit." Now that's coming from a kid who's most likely going to be the defensive player of the year, and he had 133 tackles, and he's the #1 solo tacklist in the division football he plays and in the league he plays. And his response was, "When I hit that guy, I never felt the level of impact that I've had from hitting the guy on the football field." Joshua Troop was that guy for him. So if you ask him, who's the hardest guy you've ever had to tackle? He is not going to. It was Joshua Troop at the Peach State Gridiron Classic. Because Joshua's one of those kids that you better get him before he gets started. If Joshua Troop offensive line, those 2 runs that he ran, them 2 long runs, if that ball would have just been, if the line of scrimmage would have just been 5 more yards forward, those are touchdowns. Which means I got to give hands out to Jamison Ransburg, because Jamison Ransburg, number 14, he's the one who ran Troop down on that first long run and prevented him from scoring. He did not he ran him down. But, Jamison Ransburg is a 20-plus foot long jumper. He's close to sub 11 in the 100, and he's a dog. Yeah. But Ben Troop brought a lot out of people, and some people made business decisions when he came their way. But I'll tell you, let me say this about Troop, because some people say, oh, man, it's because his uncle in the NFL, his daddy. Look, on Friday night, we were like, okay, Lucas Troop. Okay. That's Lucas Troop's son. Saturday, we were like, oh, that's Ben Troop's nephew. That's Ben Troop's nephew, NFL legend. After that first run, what's his first name? What's his name? Oh, it's Joshua? We got to stop Joshua Troop. Or it's going to be a long day. Right. And I will say this to that young man's credit. If that wasn't an all-star game, Team Dream might not win. I'm just being honest. Coach Jordan is coaching all-stars. Joshua Troop is not the only running back he has. He's not the only player he has. He has to figure out a way to get these other all-stars in the game. So you got to put your other running backs in, because they're all-stars too. You got to spread the ball out, pass and run some, some, other ways of getting the ball around on the offense, because you got other players, right? Right. But if they said, scrap that, we just going Joshua Troop the whole time, it might have been a different outcome. It wouldn't have been right in an all-star game, because you're playing, you'd have been all-starring one kid and using everybody else as bait. And they didn't do that. To their credit as coaches, they did not try to win the game by ignoring the fact there are other all-stars on this team. That's to their credit. Had they have decided it's the Joshua Troop show, then it might have been a different outcome in that game. And I recognize that. And we won. But I also recognize why we won and how we won. So I again, all those kids win in the end because they was on that field. 25 years from now, we'll be still talking about this game.
100%. You know what I'm saying? This is a space, man. I'm not, biased to, us as a people, but, I just love seeing, black men come together and coach, have like-minded ideas. But for everybody, I want to hear everybody's perspective. Just what do y'all see the evolution of the black coach from this point going forward? We see Michael Vick just got hired on at Norfolk State. Deshaun Jackson just got hired at Delaware State. And there's some rumors about Ray Lewis at FAU. I can't remember, but nonetheless, that's progression. Especially from the news scandals we've had a couple years back. Just where do y'all see it going forward? Starting with Coach Evans.
I love it. I wish it would have come earlier for guys like me. Mm-hmm. Because I'm in the twilight of my coaching, meaning I probably have a good 5 to 6 years of head coaching in me.
Sound like LeBron.
But I recognize that my greatest asset is going to be assisting a young coach who needs an older coach to give him advice. So that's what I'm a tweener now. Mm-hmm. I love seeing these young brothers who are superstars in the NFL embracing coaching. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to do well. I think it's the Deion Sanders effect.
Yeah, definitely.
If you was great at your position at the NFL, you have a lot that you can teach young men. Now, if that's what you want to do, if you're teaching young men, you're educating young men. So I'm all for it. There's Coach Brennan, who just took over Sacramento State. You know, he was the offensive coordinator at UNLV. He is considered the father of the go-go offense. We run some of that here in Cali. Now he's the Sacramento State head coach, and he's brought on a staff, a lot of men of color. And so I'm loving it. I think what's happening is at the college level, not at the NFL level, at the college level, our brothers institutions are starting to find value in our brothers. Now, the NFL, you can just look at who they're looking at to hire for the Jets, and you can tell it's still a good old boy system. Mm-hmm. The guys that they're looking at, like, dude, you guys are done. You guys are well beyond the twilight. You need a new guy. You know, but I love what I'm seeing. And I love that these coaches who look like us are finding other coaches who look like us and giving them an opportunity. Let's not forget Eddie George in Tennessee. Yeah,
that's right.
You know, he may not be getting as much attention as Deion Sanders, but who's going to get as much attention? Deion Sanders is Deion Sanders. He's always been that guy. But there are others. And I'm glad to see it. I just personally wish it would have been a more open door maybe 10 years ago.
Coach Jack?
I think it's big. Like Coach Evans said, I think it's long overdue. But the biggest thing is, what I like and how I strive myself. I don't want to just be the greatest black coach. I want to be the greatest coach. Mm-hmm. So for me and my, tree that I may have one day, and, I want to bring in really good quality coaching of everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because what it looks like, what I've seen from before, it was a lot of like, well, I know, these people, that people, and because they can vouch for you, and that still goes on to present day, and that's gonna go on. But to me, it's very big for minorities, black coaches, for us to be able to get on that same platform. But the key is just let's just not get on this platform now. We are definitely here to perform, man, and that's that. Like Freeman, at Notre Dame, that's huge, man. Like and I love Kirby Smart, but to see Marcus Freeman go out there and perform where that team perform, that's huge. And some of us guys like Coach Evans and Coach Jordan, we really don't, guys like, especially Coach Evans. Like, I learned so much just from him in 3 days. He don't necessarily need nobody to look and see that that's possible, because he was gonna kick that door down regardless. But there are kids that grow up in our neighborhoods that look like us, that go through things that mostly we go through. They need to see somebody so they can mimic. So to me, right, it's very big for that to happen.
Coach Skip.
It's a huge blessing, but it better not be taken for granted. Like right. Coach Evans just said, this is the prime effect. We haven't seen this many black coaches get hired for a long time. And the last person I could think of is Lovie Smith. And look what happened when he started 10-6. Different conversation. I just think right now, when we talk about Deion, when we talk about Deshaun Jackson, when we talk about the Coach Brennan down in Sacramento State, and we talk about I think somebody Michael Vick, what you call it. Long we do it for the right reasons. Don't just hire a guy because they're from the area. Don't just hire them because they play in the league. Because as everybody in this room know, from Bacon, Coach Evans, Coach Jackson, you can play 12 years in NFL, can't coach worth a damn.
Yeah.
So don't be hiring these guys because it's going to bring recruits and it's going to bring this. We talk about Deion a lot. Deion's been coaching for 15 years before he even got the job at Jackson State. So, I mean, and we're talking about he coached offense, defense, did some special teams. Yeah, he was around his sons, but think about everyone else that he impacted before he even got to the high school level. For him to go to Jackson and do what he did with that leadership to bring in an all-black coaching staff, which a lot of people are not doing, is very big to society. I just, like I said, I agree with both these guys. It's huge, it's big. I just pray we don't take it for granted, because there's no reason, and I say this confidently, there's no reason Eddie George should not be getting the same respect as Deion. This is a guy who won the Heisman. Now I understand Deion is the greatest player to ever, greatest athlete to ever play. No doubt, no argument. But Eddie George was a Pro Bowler. Man. Eddie George almost played for a Super Bowl. Eddie George won the Heisman. And I don't see nobody talking about Tennessee State, and they just won their conference. So, like, that's just me. I'm big on giving respect to no respect. I'm not saying Deshaun and Vic don't know how to coach. That ain't what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I hope Delaware and Norfolk brought those guys in with the intention of, hey, man, we brought you here to win. You guys done played Super Bowls. You guys done played against top-notch guys. You guys know how to recruit. You guys doing this, doing that. As long as that's cool, I'm with it, because I'm gonna throw in another name that these coaches know. Why the hell is Eric Bieniemy don't have a job?
100%.
Like that, and then we had these conversations, and it's like, well, look what the season he had at Washington. Look what he did at UCLA. The man got 2 Super Bowls. Why does that matter? The man's a great coach. So as long as we take these jobs seriously, we don't take it for granted, I'm off.
Yeah, for Coach, Coach Epps, I want to come back to you. You know what I'm saying, Sage. You know what I'm saying, just been dropping a lot of nuggets. Coach Jackson talked about, you know what I'm saying, you was gonna make it anyway, whether, you know what I'm saying, you was gonna kick the door down, whether the opportunity was presented to you. What have you done, you know what I'm saying, over the course of your time that's kind of prepared you, you know what I'm saying, especially back in the day, to kind of push through whatever adversity that was presented to you back then?
Well, now I got to give you the rated,
for sure,
the PG version.
If you want to give R2,
and I'm a say it in a way that everybody should be able to hear it, so long as they don't have a racial agenda. I got the slave out of me a long time ago.
Definitely.
I ain't scared of no room. My education, my experience, my wit, my faith. There's nowhere a group of people, no matter how slanted the room is going to make me uncomfortable. But I understand I'm rare. And when it comes to athletics, when it comes to being in different rooms, some people change who they are to be in those rooms. That's a slave mentality. I say it very humbly. I got the slave out of me. I don't care how much money you make. I'm going to look you in the eye. We going to talk. I don't care what position you have that is supposed to be prestigious. If we in the same room, you can't be that much more better, because I'm in the same room. So either I'm better than I thought, or you're not as hot as you think. But we going to talk like human beings. I believe in dealing with people as human beings. In the end, I don't want to hear nothing about your pronouns. I don't want to hear nothing about how much money you made or gave away. I don't want to hear about how many medals or awards you got. In the end, you are a human being made in the image and the likeness of God, and so am I. So we going to talk on that level. And so, you know, for me, I'm going to kick a door down because I didn't know the door was supposed to be there. I thought I was supposed to kick it down. I mean, I didn't think I was supposed to go in there, you know? And that's the legacy I want to leave my son. You don't walk into a room and see the people in there, and whatever identifying marker makes you look different, all of a sudden you shrink. No, brother, we're not shrinking. Now they may not like that we in there, but we're not shrinking because of however they feel. And that doesn't, I mean, I could be in a room with 100 black men, and there'll be guys in that room who are like, well, he's not a member of 100. We happen to be in the same ballroom. I'm not going to cower. I'm not going to become small. I don't have to. I come in knowing what I know. I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to be respectful to every single individual around me. And that's what I want to see young athletes do. You play the toughest sport on the planet, probably outside of mixed martial arts.
Right.
Because getting kicked in the head can change you. You play the most difficult sport, and MMA is only 5-minute rounds.
Mm-hmm.
We played 14-minute quarters. It is the most difficult sport to prepare to play. You can't do all of that and then walk into a room and make your and decide for yourself to be small. No, can't do that. So that's how I approach young men. I'm like, look, man, you play the most difficult sport on the planet. How dare you say you can't get an A in this class? You play the most difficult sport in the planet. What makes you think you can't have a conversation with this teacher about how to advocate for yourself for a chance to do better at what you're learning? You play the most difficult sport on the planet. How dare you tell me what somebody else is holding you down from doing?
How do you get them to see that switching from physical to a mental? You know, as kids, it's sometimes, especially for us, you know what I'm saying, perspective, it's easy to go physical, it's easy to run your mouth, easy to bench press 250, but going to the teacher and talk about, like, how do I do X, Y equals Z, you know what I'm saying? How do you translate that and get them to see that?
You got to just have them flat out conversations. So a lot of the coaching we do, if we're really paying attention to our coaching, it's really about them using that for other stuff. You know, Coach Jordan, he works with the trench mob, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he is going to do a bunch of close quarter contact where he's going to put a guy at a disadvantage to two other guys. And you know what that kid with the disadvantage is not going to do? Refuse to move at the whistle because he's at a disadvantage.
Right.
That kid knows coach put me at a disadvantage, but when that whistle blows, I got to use the technique he's taught me to defeat this disadvantage and get from point A to point B like that. So once we get our kids locked into these particular roles, and every position has these pieces, then when you hear them talk about stuff like, you know, my English teacher doesn't like me. Okay, hold on. Last week, you went up against a 6'3", 455-pound dude for 80 snaps who did not like you. How'd you handle that? Oh, I just had to put my hand in the ground. I had to get my mind right. Let's go. So the teacher is 132 pounds. How come we don't have a game plan as to how to get past her? And when they hear their sport translated into their real life,
Mm-hmm.
then they're like, oh. And then when the kid gets that and they can do it for themselves, ain't no stopping them. No stopping them. So we're already in sports, especially football, we're already teaching these young men how to survive and how to advocate for themselves in the sport. Sometimes we just got to show them you're already doing it, bro. And you're good at, you don't even question doing it in football. How dare you quit about it in life? And usually that's all it takes. Once that clicks in, once they get that, pushing sleds is tough. Pushing sleds is tough. You can't tell me that you can't learn Spanish too. It cannot be more difficult than pushing sleds after a full day of school and didn't eat as much as you should, and your body's a little fatigued, and there's still 3 more days of practice before we can get to game day, and you got 20 more minutes of sled pulling. You can't tell me that what you're doing in football cannot translate to you handling Spanish too. It's just a mind change. It's just a mental flip. And once our young men understand that football is an opportunity to learn life lessons that will last you the rest of your life, it's not just a sport. When they learn that, they become different people, which then elevates their football game. That's my story to it.
I agree. If anybody else doesn't have, does anybody have anything else to add to that? All right, gentlemen.
No.
Well, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this, man. A lot of gems. Coach Jackson, Coach Joy, you know what I'm saying? You know how we get down, like you said at the beginning. At Coach Evans, it's been a pleasure, honestly, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Just to hear the wisdom. Y'all talked about the athletes so well. Talked about the showcase, gave praise to Coach Daniels, you know what I'm saying? So we definitely appreciate you, Coach Lamar. But Jim, if y'all don't have anything else to say, I want to ask y'all this. Y'all have any questions for me? And could media do anything better just to serve not only football, but just the community at large?
For any All-Star game for you, Bacon, have you ever heard, and I want you to be 1,000% honest, have you ever heard this many coaches rave about their other coaches and players?
No. Honestly, no.
That's all.
Let's keep pushing community. You know, football is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. We all have so much good to say about it, but we need, like, kind of like Coach Evans just said, we need to take and use this ball and use it as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Use it as a tool. You know, yeah, you can run for 1,000 yards and do that, but use that as a tool to get you out of Section 8. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, and then once you get out of Section 8, go back and don't feel shamed, because a lot of us has had success and we'll feel shamed. Like Bacon, you doing your thing, coaches, they doing their thing, but we all have those friends and families. We may have went back at a point in time and we felt shame. No, don't feel shame. Bring them with you. You know what I'm saying? We got to get back to each one, teach one. If we get back that, man, everything we touch will blossom. That's all I got.
100%.
I would say, what can media do as far as helping out Coach Lamar Daniels and the Peach State Gridiron Classic? I think one of the next steps for the sophomore year of this is to, like, a lot of that time that we spent in the auditorium, there should be like live player podcasts on the stage. And someone like yourself should be prepared to interview both sides live on stage while the parents are there. So, like, that whole thing that happened with Ben Troop, that should have been live streamed.
Mm-hmm.
That should have. We got a lot of clips, but that should have been live streamed. Someone like you should talk with Coach Daniels and see about how you can volunteer time, or maybe part of your volunteer time relates to a certain level of sponsorship. I don't know, where you're doing a live podcast, where you're interviewing behind the scenes the parents, where you're in the stands at the game. You know, after a kid has made a play, now you're talking to the parents while the other camera crew is downstairs talking to the players. I didn't even know the players were being interviewed during the game. And my son was one of the ones interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he was interviewed till like an hour after the game. Folks in California said, "Oh, Seth did a great job with his interview." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He was interviewed at the game after he did the touchdown. I said, I don't know nothing about it. So they went to their TV and they went backwards on the live stream,
Right.
and they recorded it and sent it to me. I'm like, this boy did an interview in a game, and then he had to lead an interview because they had to go back on defense. That kind of stuff was dope. The expansion, the live expansion of a lot of that stuff, like everything that is done, even the coach's introduction and the coaches introducing the other coaches and each coach coming up sharing their thoughts and opinions, all of that stuff should be live streamed, and you can help make that happen.
100%. Well, fellas, I appreciate the feedback. I definitely appreciate y'all time taking it out of 90 minutes, 33 minutes, and 56 seconds approximately to take out this time on y'all Saturday, y'all busy Saturdays, to chop it up with me and give a good game, not only to me, but just to the people at large. Thank y'all for pouring into the kids. Thank y'all for pouring into our communities, and thank y'all for being yourselves. So, gentlemen, I thank y'all, and I'm saying we'll definitely be in touch, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
All right. That's all, brother.
All right, now. See y'all.
Blessings. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I'm saying? Thank y'all for tuning in. Very in-depth, very heavy stream, man. Hope y'all learned a lot. You know what I'm saying? Just what goes into the recruiting process. We talked about a lot what goes into the recruiting process, what's good, what's not good. You know what I'm saying? How can we be better as media? How can we be better as people? And what it takes not only You know what I'm saying? Be good at sports, but the shift, the flick, you know what I'm saying? The switch to translate athletics, to translate going to the gym, translate going through adversity, and you know what I'm saying, taking it to the next level and becoming great at not only athletics, but being on the job site, going to a new skill, going to a new language, as Coach alluded to. So, you know what I'm saying? It ain't in you. It ain't all you, it's in you. You know what I'm saying? As long as you believe in that and keep trucking forward, it's 2025. It's a new year, man. So chase every dream as a dog would chase a new meal. So thank y'all for tuning in. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, it's just as the news, man. Appreciate y'all. Peace and love.